G'day and welcome to our first 180 for a couple of weeks. I'm Paul Murray. If you're a fan of the show, thank you for being so patient. I promise no more breaks, well, for a little while. And if you stumbled on us for the first time tonight, welcome. This show is one for straight shooters. You've seen people being sitting on the fence on this channel each and every day and watching their words all week because, you know, they're very professional people. Well, not here. Straight shooters, one and all. Helping you with a bit of a cheats guide of the week is my favourite bloke from the business channel, Carson Scott. G'day.
Good to see you. Welcome back.
Janine Perrott has forgotten more about working in the media, particularly telling more than I will ever know.
Oh, you make me sound so old.
No, I don't know who that's a compliment, you know,
Dementia
for.
set in.
Yeah. And Joe Hildebrand is our insider in the world of newspapers. G'day, mate.
I've forgotten a lot as well. Hello, Paul.
Now, as always, we would love you to be part of the show. You can do that by simply texting along with the chat. Follow the bouncing ball on 0409 180 140. But tonight I'm going to try something a little different when it comes to our text messages. I'll tell you about that a little later in the show. But guys, at the start of this week, I'm sitting in a hotel room all by myself in my pyjamas in New York. There's just an image for you. Watching everyone going insane about John Della Bosca. We all know the story. Of course, this is a bloke who used to effectively run the ALP for years and years and years before he became a minister in New South Wales. Well, that bit of his career is now all over. Of course, he had an affair. She was 26.
I've taken my medicine. You have to live up to the consequences of bad decisions, and that is to resign as leader of the Government Legislative Council and as a minister.
You wouldn't think that the job of opposition leader in New South Wales could get any easier, but it was a certainly golden week for Barry O'Farrell.
The Premier promised an end to the soap opera. Well, the soap operas continue, the soap operas got worse, the soap opera is almost X-rated.
Now, I know this has been discussed virtually every minute of every day, but I don't care. Let's keep it going. This story is very weird and has many an angle, but your thoughts at the end of what has been a bizarre week?
Oh, you're going to ask me as the girl. I feel like one doesn't want to condone this, but I wonder if it's the first case of justifiable adultery in the annals of infidelity, because everybody says, what took the bloke so long? If Belinda Neal's your wife, and this is the awful thing about it. It does come down to Belinda Neal. The fact is he should have gone over Iguana Gate. I think they were just, you know, nobody's crying. There's the biggest debate, I think, is should the media delve into the private lives, and the fact here is we all love a good sex scandal, and I think we've all relished it this week. But in the history of sex scandals, I'm a bit disappointed. Not too much sordid detail, not too much pillow talk, no details of what went on behind closed doors. I think there's a lot more to come on this, I should say.
I mean, Joe, you know, you work at the Telegraph. That's the paper that, of course, broke it all. Obviously, a very dramatic and crazy week. What are your thoughts at the end?
Well, look, I'm with Janine. I think in terms of a sex scandal, particularly in New South Wales sex scandal, it's very disappointing for a number of reasons. One is she's a woman. Another one is that she's above the age of consent.
Yes.
And, you know, it seemed like quite a nice kind of wholesome little affair for a while, didn't it? I mean, who can blame the guy? Janine's absolutely right. I think that in terms of delving into someone's lives, yes, we should just, you know, let things go where it doesn't interfere with their life. But I think there was a clear case here where it did appear to be impairing his judgment. And we saw those little very unbecoming text messages where he was sort of, you know, carrying on like a schoolgirl. Yeah. And it's like, can you imagine if he had Twitter? And I think that there has been a lot of concern in the government and just mystification in the government as to why Della was carrying on the way he was with the leadership stuff. Yeah. And contemplating a move from the upper house to the lower house.
And that's the strangest thing of all, is that if you're a bloke who has that ambition, why would you do this in the first place? Secondly, if you were starting to make the moves that he was making, that's the worst possible time to have an affair like this. So that's what's quite strange to me, just from the sheer politics of it all.
That's right. So, yeah, the sort of the punch-drunk love thing seems to have now presented itself as an explanation for all this behaviour. And I think there's a public interest case, therefore, for bringing it to our readers' attention.
Yeah, oh, well done. All right, your thoughts at the end of a very sordid week, the gentleman of the panel?
I thought the timing was interesting because it's not as if he launched the putsch to roll Reece. This is all preempted.
He never actually did anything. That's a good point.
He did it, and you know, really, this has strains of Jeffrey Archer making a tilt for the Mayor of London because Harmony gives us her reason and all of this. You know, if
we'll deal with this all very shortly.
That in fact, you know, I believed she said that if he could lie to his family, he could lie to the state, you know, and so therefore I had a moral obligation to blow the whistle. Now, it's interesting that he now lives to fight another day. He can sit on those backbenches till what, 2013?
Yeah, he can do whatever.
He's safe as houses.
Well, see, I'm going to throw this one out. I don't know that necessarily he should have been forced to resign over it all. I mean, maybe because I haven't been around for the past few days, there's all lot of subtle details I'm not aware of. But there is something to be said, and it's the same for the John Brogden situation, where it's like, unless it's actually corrupting your office, unless it's actually something that affects what you do. Look, I might find it distasteful, it might make me not want to vote for the bloke, but it's not the same as somebody giving a job to somebody or selling a block of land for $100.
Well, let's remember he was trying to get a job for her, according to one report. It was interesting you use the term forced to resign. I don't think he was. We didn't wait around long enough for the pressure to build up. The man fell on his sword quickly. Now, it's either the one graceful thing he's done, because he behaved very well, and this government is so bad he knew he had to go, or else there's more to the story.
But it's also that thing too. You can imagine when a newspaper calls you on a Sunday night and says, OK, about the thing that you don't want anyone to know about. Well, here it is in detail, and she's going to write a little column for us in a couple of days.
Exactly
you just go, OK, see ya, I'm gone.
He wasn't discreet. He was pashing her in a Bathurst hotel. He boasted to his mates. I mean, do they think that, you know, guys, you're going to get caught.
That's
you know, even if the Telegraph doesn't get you, someone's going to get you.
Well,
You've got to realise.
but also particularly in this world where, you know, if you've got one of these, you've got, you know, a TV camera that you can end up uploading anything onto the world. But look, let's talk about that morality, though, that idea that, look, you know, we've all heard endless rumours about who's knocking off who, be it in the world of business, be it in politics, be it even in the media. What do you think about the idea of an affair being thrown out for public consumption?
There was a lovely line in the Financial Review, actually, a letter to the editor. Someone saying, "Never trust a man who cannot dress himself properly avec kipper tie, bulging gut and badly turned cuffs," which I thought was quite... So maybe the warning signs were there.
Wales Labour
That's
Party
the point.
in here.
So maybe
I
the
don't
warning
even know what that
signs
means.
were there. You don't
You
know
got turned up cuffs.
These are the double cuffs.
Yeah, that's right. That's quite fashionable.
I want to see my cuffs in a stick-up.
Yeah, and look, it's that thing where, look, you know, I mean, it's pretty hard to play, you know, for want of a better term, stacks on with the woman involved in all of this. But I've got to say, it was quite weird to see what she wrote about the affair, to see what she wrote about, as you said before, Carson, the importance of warning the state that if he's willing to lie to the family, then, I mean, come on,
I
bro.
want to know from the Telegraph's point of view. I don't have a problem with you revealing it, but I think you should have revealed the woman's name. She's not a classic whistleblower, as they said. The fact that you hid her identity, she's a 26-year-old woman, knowingly entered this and desperately wanted to blow him up. I was very glad to see her name come out. I think if you're going to do this, you should have to stand up instead of the silhouette.
Very vulnerable young girl. Very flattering.
Yes,
she was.
Very flattering silhouette. No, she. One of the conditions of her giving us her story was anonymity, and that's something that we honour and respect all the time. And also, obviously, we would have rather printed her name.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, that goes without saying, but that was the story was worth telling, and whatever.
And what an incredible world of either how well plugged in people are, or they just know how it works, that within a day of the story, there's the YouTube clip of her on the Flacco and Sam. It's like, wow, that's quick. I don't know how. Like, it shows that someone's rolling on everything all the time.
Was Belinda even apologised to when he stood out there and gave that apology? I couldn't even...
He mentioned the colleagues, he mentioned his church, and then it was family. There was no reference of
there was no
his
explicit
wife.
reference to my wife, though, was there?
I'm not sure if he particularly said my wife. He certainly mentioned his family,
Yeah,
both in the
that
written
was telling.
apology and in his press conference.
And this is the worst thing about it, that they're saying she'll now keep a pre-selection because there's sympathy for her.
I
I mean,
find
this
that
is
very
shocking.
difficult to believe.
That's the
I
worst
find
bit
that
of it.
absolutely impossible to believe. Belinda is gone. She was always gone. And quite frankly, as we've seen, Della isn't the man of influence he once was.
But I mean,
Well, okay, so
he's not gone. And he's not
exactly.
gone as
Here's the
forever,
quick
is he?
run around the table. I think he can come back. Obviously, not all the way to the front of the bus, but I think there's a massive chance that he'll be. Well, I
how
don't know,
ludicrous.
in the next
Within
18 months before they get the
Within a
backside.
day, people were asking Reece. In fact, at the press conference where he resigned, they were asking him, when will he be back? I mean, you either resign and you go to the sin bin for a while, or you don't.
No, but what do you think? Do you think that he will ever be a minister again before this government gets the backside in a couple of years?
Oh, God, how long have they got to run? Far too long. There's probably every chance. It seems everybody gets a go at something.
Like a children's birthday party.
So this term will come
It's like an
again.
encouragement
Yeah,
award.
yeah.
Which brings us to this question, though, is that, look, in New South Wales at the moment, and look, my apologies obviously to the rest of the country, but there is a pretty precarious situation in the upper house, and now the numbers are now changing, that there is an outside chance that they may well be able to block supply if the Liberals and everyone else get together, and there is a chance that this government might get knocked over. There's also this constant conversation about people when they're as unhappy with the state government as New South Wales seems to be with its, and certainly I know that Victoria has had the same to a degree with its state government, about recall elections. How do we feel about governments losing terms earlier than what they expect? What do you think of the idea of recalls? What do you think about the block of supply? Carson, what would you do if you're on the other side of Labor in any state in this country?
Well, I mean, I just think the whole idea, to be honest with you, of federalism is preposterous. I mean, I just think this throws up the great...
I like it. Let's go back to a debate for 1900.
No, well, why not? If everything is on the table.
No, that's fair. No, it's a fair.
I just don't see what is being achieved here. I mean, you drive along Sydney roads; they are a disgrace. Where is any sense of fiscal prudence being exercised in any of our states? You know, it's just a laughing joke. Hold one government to account.
It's only fair.
Look, I think certainly fixed terms are an issue. I think the argument that governments need that time to do things and not be held to account is completely fallacious. And it's strange that people seem to fall for it. But I mean, it was Bob Carr, God bless you, Bob, who introduced fixed terms in the first place, and now is being remembered as the one premier who was in there for 10 years and did absolutely bugger all.
Yeah, exactly.
So
but think about Queensland. You know, Anna Bligh turns around and she has a full-on election campaign. She was on PM agenda a couple of minutes ago, saying that this campaign cost 4 times more than the one in the year 2000. It was a thorough, full-on campaign. But the minute that she gets in, she decides to drop the fuel subsidies, and basically the entire state is as aggro with her as they were 18 months ago.
Don't even start me on that woman. And this week, she's going to appear on Celebrity Chef. She really takes her job seriously a couple of weeks after.
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
we'll do that very shortly.
Exactly, but look at them all, and we'll probably do that Mad Minister on the mountaintop too.
Yeah.
Or as someone said, where Della Bosca wished he was this week, where a helicopter could rescue him. But I think across the eastern states this week, ministers were not covering themselves in glory.
But what is it about? Is it because we have basically a fairly crappy bunch of people that are running these states? Is it because the parties, so few people are actually members of political parties that the people they end up choosing end up being nuff-nuffs? Like, how do we get to a stage when people don't figure out, when they're sitting in a room, OK, here's the deal, we're going to get the arse from the electorate in about 18 months. Everyone, shut up, settle down and start doing your job. Like, how, if you're in a cabinet anywhere in the country, do you not know that that's what you're supposed to do?
I'll tell you where the problem lies. The problem doesn't necessarily lie in federalism. It doesn't necessarily even lie with Labor. It lies with governments that have just been in too long, and they get complacent, they get lazy, and then the problem that lies in as a result of that is, of course, weak oppositions who have a sense of entitlement, who think if they just, wait around long enough, that terrible, lazy political philosophy that oppositions don't win elections, governments lose them. That is absolutely not true. We've seen it with Bligh in Queensland, we saw it with Yemma in Victoria, and probably saw it with, Brumby in Victoria, and probably and saw it with Yemma in New South Wales. Another thing, with those 3 elections, those big 3 eastern states, the opposition leaders, all of them, for reasons that one can only guess at, insisted on being photographed in their underpants.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes,
I mean,
Peter Debden
really?
class.
Is that the best you can do? I mean, I'll refrain from making jokes about stimulus packages.
Which I think is very decent.
Thank you very much.
We will get to economic matters shortly. But yeah, look, you mentioned Anna Bligh. She's going to be on Celebrity Master Chef. Apparently it's okay because she's going to be doing it as part of her annual leave. I mean, to me it says as much about the people that run these shows as opposed to her actually accepting. They go, who's an ultimate celebrity? A fashion designer, an Olympian. Oh, let's get a premier to do it. That the line between the person who's supposed to be, frankly, bland and running the state is now no different than somebody strolling a red carpet.
Well, first, if you look at the list, they are the most D-list of celebrities, so that's even more embarrassing. But the fact is that we want to have these people, they want respect. We give them a lot of perks and privileges, and you're not getting respect turning up on it. At least most politicians have the sense to wait till they're thrown out of office before they do it. If she wants to be a celebrity rather than a serious politician, just give it a year or 2 because she'll be thrown out on her ear like everybody else. There's no rush.
Keen to know what you think. 0409 180 140. Carson, the idea of a premier on Celebrity MasterChef. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think that's the programmer's fault. I think it's her advisors. Time and again we've seen, even with Turnbull, we've got B-grade advisors coming into the game. Are we paying these people not enough? What is the problem, Joe?
Look, I think there's a large part of it. I think it's also attrition as well. Like, you know, you see it in New South Wales where the quality of advice has just dropped off. There was an exodus when Bob Carr left. There's an exodus when Maurice Yema left.
Where have they gone?
There's an exodus when they've gone to Canberra. They've gone to help Kevin.
And then what do we think about this?
The advisors, they have to wear it themselves. She's the Premier of the state. She has to make the
but she
decisions
takes
herself.
soundings because
Yeah.
she gets out of touch otherwise. She's
I
got to
would
lean
hope
on
they could make
advice.
it happen.
Someone
She
should have
not
thrown themselves in front of a bus to stop her doing that.
But isn't it her job to say, you know what, producers of Celebrity MasterChef, come and make it in Brisbane. Make it in the Queen Street Mall and let's sell Queen's... That's her job when it comes to MasterChef. It's not about...
everything in macadamia nuts and then it's okay.
Yes, but you know what I'm saying? Isn't that her idea? I mean, that's what... I can't believe I'm about to defend Peter Beattie here. But Peter Beattie was successful being able to say to places like Virgin Blue, hey, come here, pay bugger all tax because the jobs are more important, the promotion is more important than...
They should get George Columbaris to run Queensland.
Oh, beautiful.
That would be fair.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to
Everyone
see
would
Matt
be
Preston
happy.
as Prime Minister. I want a cravatted Prime Minister back again here. Look, as we say, you can text us 0409 180 140. Now, I don't know whether this is... you guys are smarter than me on this. But the stimulus package, we discussed it endlessly. And I'll be very honest too, I kicked it as hard as everyone else. But if we haven't gone into recession, if we don't have unemployment at 11%, if things seem to be going okay, do they deserve a high five? Carson, you watch these things even closer than the rest of us. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you know, we love to say economists, what economists, because you know, every month revisions are made. We're scurrying to change forecasts. I still don't think it's the case that you can crack open the champagne because rates are, I think, going to prove the big unwinding of things. All the talk this week has been who's going to, you know, when are they going to go? Are they going to go earlier now than later as a result? You know, the Reserve Bank, will they raise these rates? And it's on a knife edge because, you know, we've had the first home buyers grant, we've had a rush of first-time owners going into that market. If it's all pulled from under them, that is the unsettling dimension. You know,
So are we now beyond the sky is falling position? Are we now at the point where, you know, it's bad, it might get worse, but it's not going to get a whole lot worse?
Well, you know, we are one of the most indebted nations in the world after the United States. So, and that statistic has not changed after this week. And I just don't believe that, you know, we have the capacity to keep on borrowing.
Yeah.
Far be it for me to agree with Carson, but every word he said is absolutely right. It's far too early to claim credit. I mean, you can understand Rudd standing up on the world stage saying, you know, he's the greatest economic leader in the world. And yes, it appears the stimulus package has worked for now. But let's remember, it's smoke and mirrors. It's all about what it was projecting to do. It was the confidence it gave you. Most of the money hasn't even been spent yet. They're already in trouble on it, on overspending some. Some's committed. Do they even need to spend it? It had the desired effect before they actually did it. So a lot of it was spent.
And what rankled this week was economists, certain esteemed economists, saying to me, look, infrastructure on schools, which as you've just pointed to, equals increased productivity. No, it doesn't. The mere fact of building a new school hall is not going to make it for a more productive nation.
No, I agree
somehow.
completely.
Here is if you build one for every single student.
Well, exactly.
Yeah, which I think they got to with a couple of them.
places
Let's look at some of the
where-
politics being played here. Of course, here's Joe Hocking making the most of, well, talking down what have been a pretty good series of numbers this week.
If we continue to spend money the way the Rudd government is, we will have higher taxes and higher interest rates.
You got to love them that even when the numbers are good, they still have a swing. But Joe, I mean, what's your impression of it? As I say, I mean, I'm not naive enough to say that people who have the arse out of their strides don't still have it. People who are doing it tough aren't still going to do it worse. But, I mean, I remember sitting here at the end of last year and we were quite scared almost about the numbers that were there, and every day there was this story after story after story that we thought something really bad is going to happen.
Yeah, look, I think there's an argument. I still want to train. I really, really, really want to train. And I do think it's a bit of a shame that they've thrown all that money just in...
And that's not a gag. You're serious. You
I
want
really
a
want to
high-speed
train. I don't really care where it is now. I want one between Canberra and Sydney.
Giving out trains.
I'll settle for that. I
A
will settle for
high-speed
that.
train, you're absolutely right.
I know. I got one. A high-speed train in Canberra. I want, you know, a metro in Sydney. I want, you know, a proper thingy. What's it in Brisbane? I think they've got a train to the airport now. I'm so jealous.
Yes.
But having said that,
Nobody uses it.
having said that, there is an argument that, and we do have to remember that it's not just the government just sort of acting, you know, on a whim. They're acting on the advice of Treasury. It's the same Treasury that was advising the Howard government, and they're saying that we need to get this liquidity into the economy very, very quickly. And it's all very well and good to put on big infrastructure projects, but the recession's going on and people are losing their jobs while these people are still at the drafting board and putting the plans together. So there is an argument there. I think it's a shame about some of the misspending in the education stuff. But pessimist, glass half empty. The recession is over.
Yeah, it is.
We got it as an exclusive. We ran it on the front page 3 weeks ago.
You did.
And I'm sticking by it.
Oh,
or
well
as
played.
the comedian said, everything speeds up. The Great Depression was 10 years, 10 months, and this is all
that's
over.
right.
Nothing lasts these
that's the
days.
Twitter thing. Even recessions are quick these
verbal of
days.
recession.
Yeah, look, keen to know what you think. 0409 180 140. Plenty of text messages here, particularly about when we're talking about Anna Bligh on Celebrity MasterChef, saying, what about Julia Gillard? She was on Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader this week. Very fair point. The idea that they're celebrities. But, I mean, I know that working in FM radio as I do at Triple M, that you're always thinking that, OK, let's try and talk to a celebrity. Let's try and make the principal swear. Let's try and make a teacher do something a little bit stupid. So they seem to think that it's a bit of a free kick, but I don't know about Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader. It's probably a little smarter than the Premier of Queensland, cooking an omelette.
Well, you could get the Premier of New South Wales to do Celebrity MasterChef because he'd have his own knives.
Yes,
He'd
correct. Just from the back. I like it. I like it. All right, some of the photos of the week. Let's have a look here. Michael Jackson is finally buried. He had a funeral, of course, today in LA. This is rather awkward looking at me, but there we go. There's a whole lot of camera crews that were there. There is very limited pictures that come from this because the suggestion is that the cameras that were there were filming it not for the news, but in actual fact for a movie and documentary that will happen a little bit later. That's the first of them. Another look as the family arrived an hour late, which again continues the weirdness of this story. So let's move on quickly. Massive story in the States is, of course, the Californian bushfires. And as we know, politicians always love to find an angle. This is former bodybuilder Arnold Schwarzenegger. He finds a dumbbell kit and decides to start working out. At this point, I should tell you, 10,000 people have had to leave their homes at this stage. The actual fires are massive. A 747 at one time was being brought in to firebomb, and we think Elvis is impressive. But finally, there is a family in the United States that have 18 kids. Get SWAT. There's going to be a 19th. And this being the weird, bizarre, strange world that we live in, they're going to have a TV show.
She made it out of bed.
God, for so many reasons. In a moment, something special when it comes to texts. This is 180 across the country on Sky News.
We're watching every move our leaders make 7 days a week. Sky News Agenda.
180 here on Sky News. Thank you so much for watching. Plenty still to talk about this week, and we'd love you to be part of it. 0409 180 140. But I talked about something different with texts. Normally we just want your opinion. However, I'd like to ask you a specific question. There was a story today that there was a bus driver who's been caught actually reading while driving. If we can, let's have a quick little look at this. Crappy internet footage, but there we go. There's a bus driver who was reading. So, pretty simple one. It's a Friday night. Why not? What is the strangest thing you have seen someone do while they are driving? When I've asked this question on the radio before, people have said that they've done a whole bunch of very strange things, including somebody who'd actually seen somebody in commuter traffic with a full bowl of cereal, eating it as they were driving. If you have anything like this, 0409 180 140. Now, let's quickly talk about this other major story of the week. Victorian minister decides to go for a hike, loves a hike, but decided to, well, just go missing for a couple of days. For a bloke that seemed to enjoy hikes as much as possible, you would think that he would be smart enough to have one of those EPIRB systems. I mean, it's one thing for enough from England to go missing for a couple of days and get paid $100,000 by 60 minutes, but when an actual minister goes missing, it was quite strange.
Yes, especially one who's got a lot of self-confidence. I hope he's learned a bit of humility from this. He has said that he feels like a bit of a git and we should have emergency beacons. But, you know, as I said, it comes to judgment of these people. I mean, he's a very senior minister. You have to wonder, the shot of him sitting on a mountain looking forlorn is not a good look.
Yeah, that thing, the last thing you would do if you were able to do it would be on a stretcher with that, you know, tinfoil that they cover you in. Wouldn't you have that off and be like Evel Knievel at the end of it? I'm fine. Here's a little bit of that minister saying sorry as many times as he could.
I slid very, very fast, and if you've ever slid in the ice before, you'll know you start slowly and you slide faster and faster and you gather huge momentum.
I'm sure he was, after he got past the embarrassment going, how good is this? I'm the centre of the world this week, Joe.
Yeah, look,
yeah.
But I think the whole thing, it's a bit hard. It's obviously a male thing. I mean, no bloke really thinks, oh, you know, I'm going to need a satellite tracking device. You know, they don't. Of course they are. They won't even ask for directions. Him holding after he slid down the ice, off the track, blah blah blah. He gets a thing at the bottom, right, and he sees two other bushwalkers. He's still on this stage, you know. He's broken his leg or whatever. He's no idea where he is. He sees two other guys. He still won't ask for directions.
I'll be fine, mate.
I'll be fine. Yeah,
I'll be right, mate.
I'm just going to hack my way through this undergrowth down here. Yeah, done it plenty of times.
Now, Carson, you know, I know that you are a committed naturist, but enough about that. What I'd love to know, though, is, you know, have you ever got in one of those scenarios where you've gone hiking with some mates, you've got, you know, gone missing for a couple of hours or anything like this?
Well, I've done it with the family, actually. We were hiking around Kowal Island, which is off the east coast of the North Island, and in New Zealand. And the tide sort of came in and blocked us off of our track. We did have to clamber up a sheer cliff. And I've got to say it was pretty terrifying. I mean, we would have missed the ferry back and been stranded. So yes, I mean, you've got to take evasive action, but that was with other people. I mean, he was on his own.
Yes, that's
which was the bizarre
thing,
I just can't understand that.
But it's that thing. I mean, at the end of the week, is he an embarrassed man or a happy one? Because we're talking about him in our look back of the week.
I do get the feeling a politician, any publicity is good publicity. And as I said, Della Bonka might have taken him off the front page.
Della Bonka, I like it. That's well done.
I had to get that.
I did very well. High five. I like it. Pun of the night. I like it. Now look, there is what I think is quite strange decision which is taking place in Tasmania. Princess Mary, of course, Australian Princess Mary. We always go a little bit insane when she comes home. Well, she's going to be back in Tasmania in a few weeks' time, and they've passed special laws that will essentially see that the paparazzi will be locked up if they try and find her and try and take photos of her. Guys, this is a lady who is, well, entitled to her privacy, but on the other hand, she will be locking up people who are taking photos of somebody. If they start endangering people, if they start driving on the wrong side of the road, I get it. But just trying to take a photo, it's a little cringeworthy.
Privacy schmize. I'm so sick of people going on about their privacy. She makes all her money. She's paid for by the Danish people. I mean, at least, you know, the one good take-home message of this is Australians aren't paying for those frocks.
Yeah, correct.
She's paid for the Danish people. She didn't want to become a princess so she could sit in a dark room. She wanted to become a princess so she could come out and everyone's photographing the princess. And we've probably lost our exclusive interview with her by now, but I don't care.
Yeah, that's all right.
It's absolutely completely fraudulent. These people want publicity when they want it, and then all of a sudden they want to be able to turn off the tap. And I'm sorry, honey, but the real world just doesn't work like that. Cop it sweet.
But I agree. If you sit down if you sat down for endless interviews with magazines that run pap shots, then you are somewhat lining yourself up for this stuff. And look, I know she's not Lindsay Lohan or some sort of train wreck celebrity, but it does seem a little bit precious that we're passing laws to make sure nobody gets in her way.
It's ridiculous. I'm with Joe. This privacy argument this week, it's ridiculous. If you're a politician who wants to be premier, if you're a woman who's become princess and going to be queen of a country, of course you're going to be photographed. You lose the right to privacy. If you don't like it, don't do it.
So, Carson, have we all traded away our privacy because we're sitting here?
Another instance of the redundancy of federalism. You know, you've got a Tasmanian parliament. What the dickens are they doing wasting time over that?
I like it.
Well, the laws, the laws to outlaw that.
I love that you were able to pull Princess Mary and federalism into one.
Really
I'm liking it. We had a great pun. I'll tell you what, Joe, better pick up your game. I mean, these two, they're going okay. Look, there was an interesting report this week looking at the way that the media works and suggesting whether, left-wing bias or right-wing bias. Of course, all of this stuff is virtually impossible to prove, but the suggestion is that the ABC, in actual fact, is right-wing bias. They looked at a whole bunch of stories and said that many were actually quite positive to the conservative side of politics. Now, I, like most people, listen to an awful lot of ABC radio, watch an awful lot of its telly. I don't know what they were watching because last time I checked, these shows, through the height of the Howard government, they were all about second-guessing the government, all about exposing what were quite reasonable things to have a go at them. I don't think there was that many positive conversations involving the word Kyoto.
I think you only need to watch 7:30 Report and Kerry O'Brien's interviews with Kevin Rudd, his adoring interviews where he flirts with him, and then his terrible ones with Malcolm Turnbull to see where it is. I thought it was interesting. Peter Costello wrote an op-ed piece in the Sydney Morning Herald recently about the lack of right-wing commentators houses on the ABC. I think there's one in Perth, they told him. So
Yeah, right.
I think Peter Costello would agree.
That's an interesting point that you point to, Kerry, because this survey, as I understand it, pointed to, if anything, the slant being determined at an editorial level rather than any article selection by journalists. And of course, Kerry is the editor of the 7:30 report, as much as the presenters. So you can, I mean, that actually does square with what you've said. I mean, if it is determined from on high, well then, yeah, maybe there is some consistency in that.
But it's that thing where, look, I mean, obviously there's not a meeting, but the whole thing is that most people, it would be fair to say, that are in the business are all, you know, very pious and carrying on and probably fairly lefty in all of it. I mean, it's no great surprise that that sort of thing would exist, particularly in the ABC, but it's quite bizarre to conclude that there's a right-wing bias from it.
Look,
I just don't see that being.
I find I have some issues with the methodology and the definitions used, but I think that it's actually quite plausible. I actually think it's very possible that the actual coverage that Joe Bloggs sees on the ABC or listens to on ABC Radio is actually quite balanced. And I think there's probably such anxiety among the ABC, and I know a lot of people who work there, that they probably overcompensate. And I can imagine them being, yes, giving more airtime. Now, they have to check all these things. They've got to time minutes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I reckon it's people in media and politics who think that the ABC is biased towards the left because they know that everyone who's presenting such balanced reports are all dirty commies on the inside.
And the Reds
and
under the
doing
red.
their very best.
You're absolutely right, because I filled in on ABC Radio, and the checks and balances on everything, and the complaints and the bureaucracy.
It's horrible.
It's absolutely true. You have to be overly compensating because everybody's coming
and it's
at
such
you.
a bureaucratic behemoth organisation.
Well,
It's barely even a news
surely a
organisation.
valid argument for saying, take away this, as you say, the anxiety of it, remove the government funding and institute a licence fee.
Go.
Do it like the BBC.
You know, I thought that it was quite bizarre that of all of the things when John Howard had full run, he had both houses of Parliament, that never became a conversation. He was willing to hit everything else. He was willing to change workplace laws, but he went, you know what? Let's think about combining Radio National and News Radio, pushing them together, and considering that you can get for about $200 million a licence in it, let's sell the licences off.
I don't know why they don't just merge SBS with the ABC.
Well,
why should we have two government-run broadcasters in this country?
right.
That's another argument.
No, I agree. All right, keen to know what you think. 0409 180 140. Now, just quickly here, when I was in the States, of course, Ted Kennedy died, and the coverage on cable news has been particularly over the top. Well, it's been a very choreographed few days since his death, and they were essentially choreographed by him, right down to the details of exactly how his funeral would work and the fact that his casket would go via the park that he got for his mother. All very grandiose and, frankly, a little bit up one's own backside. To that extent, his memoir, which he has kept since just after his brothers became a whole lot more famous than he was, well, that's all been timed now that upon his death it would be released. Here's some of the excerpts.
For all the glowing eulogies last week, there was also a constant reminder.
He was not perfect. Far from it.
And in his memoir, for the first time, we learn about Ted Kennedy's imperfections in his own words. I have enjoyed the company of women, he writes. I have enjoyed a stiff drink or two or three. At times, I've enjoyed these pleasures too much. Kennedy says his self-destructive drinking was especially bad after the death of his brother, Robert.
My brother need not be idealized or enlarged in death beyond what he was in life.
Senator Edward Kennedy drove off the bridge to
On the 1969 car crash that took the life of Mary Jo Kopechne, he writes that Chappaquiddick haunts me every day of my life. Another theme in the book, the immense pressure he felt as a Kennedy. As I think back to my three brothers, it sometimes has occurred to me that my entire life has been a constant state of catching up. The program at Kennedy's funeral included a quote from his book about faith. It is the cause of my eternal optimism, he writes. My faith has always brought me home.
An impressive life, certainly some controversial things to talk about, but the whole Kennedy phenomenon, it is bizarre that in the conversation after his death, watching it, as I did day in, day out, hour in, hour out, great thing to do on a holiday, was the discussion about, well, will his wife take the Senate seat? No, that's not going to happen. Will his son? No, they don't know yet. There's going to be a meeting among the family to decide which Kennedy will get the seat. How does anyone cop that?
Because the Americans might have had a revolution, but they desperately want a monarchy, and this is the closest they've got.
Yeah.
Camelot, they love the dynasty, it has always been us.
But also that thing when they turned around and said about him that, he was so vital in civil rights. I'm pretty sure LBJ was somewhat involved in that conversation as well. Like, all the other people that were around, all the presidents that he worked with, all the other people that co-sponsored all of those bits of law, all go away, and you think that this one bloke decided how America ran
as Janine says,
for the
no
past
one really
50.
quite captured that equivalent that the United States has never had, which is a monarchy, which is a first family that has crossed the generations, and that's what the Kennedys did come to stand for.
Yeah,
rightly or wrongly.
And never forget this fact. Despite the fact that Ted Kennedy actually endorsed Obama to become the president, he lost Massachusetts. Small fact that always got left out. That's just me yelling at the telly, but actually on the telly. More 180 in a sec here on Sky News.
Now, 9:30 every morning, 10:30 every evening, Sportsline.
180 on Sky News. Nice to be back. Thank you for all the text messages. We wanted to find out what is the strangest thing that you have ever seen someone do behind the wheel, because this is what somebody was doing while they were driving a bus. Video was on the internet today of someone reading while driving. Well, Melissa sent us a great text here saying the strangest thing she's ever seen is somebody putting on fake eyelashes behind the wheel. Somebody tells us here the weirdest thing they ever saw was a one-armed driver who was on the phone while attempting to drive through a roundabout. This is great, though. A young woman also spotted somebody painting her nails while driving at 100 k's in Perth. All of which I'm sure would qualify for our losers of the week. But guys, let's go. Winners and losers of the week. Carson, what do you think?
I think Nathan Rees for this, for surviving the push that never was.
That didn't make him a winner?
He is glowing this week, isn't he?
Yeah. Look, I'm not sure if glowing's quite the.
Yeah. Winner of the week, Joe.
I'm calling John Delabosca the winner of the week. I think he's the only person who's come out of this with any glory whatsoever.
It's strange, I agree.
He managed to shag a hot bird. He managed to.
And the scary thing was that she said he was a spunk.
That's right. He got called a spunk in the national press.
Blokes.
And the thing is, like when you compare it to elsewhere, so, you got Tim Holding, who looks like a bit of a deal, as we've said, who's, come back, Stuart Diver-esque. It's been done, Tim, I'm alive. And Delabosca just says, hey, I shagged her. And I'm like, Ted, I didn't kill her.
Janine, your winner or loser of the week?
Very quickly, what do
on?
IKEA and Macquarie Street have in common?
What?
One dodgy screw and the whole cabinet falls apart.
Lovely, well done. Fantastic. I would have to say that my winner of the week is Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan, who, of course, we all know is a trash bag celebrity. She's being paid $1 million to take her clothes off by Playboy. We've already seen her naked in movies, in paparazzi and a whole bunch of stuff. Yet still, there's $1 million being paid to see her naked. She is the winner of the week. Carson Scott, Joe Hildebrand and Janine Perrott, thank you so much. Thank you for all the texts. I'm Paul Murray. Looking forward to seeing you at 9:15 next Friday for more 180. Have a great weekend.